Hello, this is Everest Hall, and I'm going to be reading the Metamorphoses Ovid in a way. I'm just going to explain it. In the beginning, there was chaos. All is chaos. But God or nature claimed the elements and divided them. Fire rose up into the celestial vaults, and air followed it. Earth dropped, being heaviest and most dense, and with all of the dense creatures, and then water dropped below it. Earth developed geography and temperature and weather, which reflects heaven's temperature and geography and weather. And as Earth is developing, so the stars are developing, and the other planets and the gods and the lower creatures which look at the ground. But something was missing. It was missing a creature which had the creation of heaven, but the will to dominate Earth. Man was created. The first millennium of man was known as the Age of Gold. Now, in the Age of Gold, there were two suns. One was Saturn, and the fruit was really heavy in the trees, and man ate strawberries and didn't fight with the animals or harvest any food. The second age is this Age of Silver. Now, in silver, Saturn fell off into the distance, and we had one sun. Man decided that he needed to harvest fruits and vegetables. The seasons came into being, and then after silver came bronze, and man began to develop armors and language, and then came iron. And iron was an age that was covered in blood. Now, things were getting really crazy on Earth, and every humanoid was completely mad and craving blood. There was a race of giants that climbed to the highest mountain, got on top of each other's shoulders, and were clawing at heaven so they could murder the gods. Now, this really freaked Zeus out, because he was like, whoa, everybody calm down. And if he remembered this time a couple weeks back where he went down to Earth to check things out and bumped into this king named Lycaeus. And Lycaeus was a real fucking bastard. So Lycaeus wanted to murder Zeus. He hatched a plot. And what he thought is he'd invite him over to the house and then feed him a big heavy meal and then kill him while he passed out. Now, the meal was going to be made out of his own son, who was in jail for whatever. But Zeus, being king of the gods, knew this immediately and was very insulted. So he sent a thunderbolt down from heaven, blew up the castle, and Lycaeus ran away like a bitch. And Zeus turned into a werewolf. Now, the gods were pretty repulsed and upset with the actions of the lizard-footed, bloodthirsty humanoids. So Zeus called a meeting and told them that he was going to take care of the humanoid problem by destroying them. All the gods were shocked and were like, oh my god, but who's going to worship us? And he was like, don't worry, we're going to have another race of man that is more sensitive and spiritual. And besides that, we got to protect Olympus and all the nymphs and satyrs. We're responsible for them. They don't go to heaven. They're out down there in Arcadia. We have to protect them. So he raised his thunderbolt up, a big mighty gesture, but then remembered the future where the earth would die in a fiery cataclysm. So he summoned the water to come up and flood the whole planet and drown everybody. And everybody that didn't drown, they starved to death on mountaintops. Upon hearing the news of mankind's complete and total obliteration by flood, Prometheus contacted his son Deucalion, and Deucalion freaked out, ran to his wife Pyrrha, and they built a boat. The earth floods, they're on the boat, and they survive. They end up on the very tip of Mount Parnassus. The water subsides, and they realize everyone and everything is dead. No plants, no animals, no humans, dead. They're freaking out. They walk down the mountaintop, losing their minds, and they stumble across the Temple of Delphi. In the Temple of Delphi is the Oracle. They ask the Oracle what to do, and she tells them in cryptic speech, cast the bones of your mother upon the earth. She's very confused, but Deucalion's like, wait, I have an idea. Let's walk and throw rocks. So they walk and throw rocks. His rocks become men, and her rocks become women. And these people repopulate the earth. So the floodwaters are subsiding. and the earth is starting to repopulate with very ancient creatures and some new creatures. One of these new creatures is this monstrous serpent named Pheathon. Pheathon was created by Hera in order to terrorize her competition, a titaness named Leto. Leto was pregnant from Zeus with Apollo and Artemis, the sun god and the moon goddess. And Pheathon just ran around the whole damn planet, just scaring them to death and just giving them no peace and just really being a real thorn. So Apollo's up in the sky and he's looking down and the waters are subsiding, and he sees Pheathon and he's like, oh, Apollo shoots down to earth and takes his bow and arrow and shoots him in the eye and in the throat and in the stomach and kills him and covers the whole world in his blood. Feeling very good and kind of proud of himself, he's walking away. And he sees Cupid. And Cupid has also a bow and arrow. And he's kind of getting ready to cause some loving. And Apollo makes fun of him. He's like, who's this kid playing with a bow and arrow when he should be, like, using his torch? And that's a man's job. And that really hurt Cupid. And he felt really bad about that. And was like, man, that wasn't really nice. This is also one of my tools. You don't need to be like that. And he's like, I think I might need to teach you a lesson. So Cupid was pretty sore with Apollo for making fun of him. So he devised a strategy, a vengeance. He came up with two opposing arrows. One was an arrow of passion, and one was an arrow of repulsion. He shot Daphne, this really beautiful daughter of a river god named Peneus. He shot her with this arrow of revulsion, and he shot Apollo with the arrow of passion. Apollo just freaks out and just has to have her and is chasing her down. And she's like, whoa, oh my God. She begs her father to make her an eternal virgin to protect her, but it's not saving her. And he's really chasing after her. They're running in a field, and then she begs her father, this river god, to turn her into earth, which she automatically transforms into a laurel tree. As Apollo's reaching her, she turns into the tree, and he makes the tree holy, and that's why victors wear laurel leaves on their head. So Daphne had a sister named Io, and Io was just as beautiful. Of course, Zeus saw her from up on heaven and tried to convince her on a very hot day to go into these deep, dark woods and allow him to rape her. She ran away into a big field. He turned into a cloud and came down and raped her. Hera caught wind of this. She came down and turned Io into a cow, and then asked Zeus to give the cow to her as a gift. She took the cow and she put it far away and had a 100-eyed monster named Argos protect her. Zeus sent Mercury down to kill Argos and free her. How Mercury freed Io from Argos is actually a really interesting story. He tells Argos, the 1,000-eyed monster guy, a story about Pan and how Pan had a crush on a nymph. And he was chasing after the nymph, and the nymph didn't want the attention, and she prayed to the gods, and they transformed her into some reeds. And then Pan cut the reeds down and made a little flute called the syrinx, and that's how the syrinx came to be. So this story was so boring that Argos just fell asleep, and then Mercury killed him then and stole Io and rushed her out of there. When Hera found out that Io escaped from Argos, she was furious, so furious. So she sent a giant swarm of angry hornets to terrorize poor Io and chase her. Now, she's still a cow at this point, and they chased her around the earth several times, and the poor cow eventually dies of exhaustion. But she dies on the banks of the Nile and is reborn. And she gets her human body back and becomes a goddess and a pharaohess, and has a young son named Apophis. Epaphus is the son, the child of Zeus, and he has a childhood friend named Pheathon. And Pheathon and Epaphus got to hanging out and teasing each other one day, and it didn't really go that well for poor Pheathon. So Epaphus and Pheathon were hanging out and talking, and parents and lineage came up. Pheathon was bragging that his dad was Apollo, the sun god, and Epaphus was like, "You're so full of shit, no way, you're lying." And Pheathon was like, "No, totally." He's like, "No way." And so very hurt and kind of confused, Pheathon went to his mother and asked her, and she said, "Absolutely, your father's the sun. If you doubt me, why don't you go and talk to him? He doesn't live that far away. He lives over in India." So Pheathon got all of his stuff and, determined to find this out, went to India to see his father in the Temple of the Sun King.